Hey guys, Saiyan here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so the Bond of Master and Disciple Super Battle Road stage is dropping on Global. So of course we are doing a team building guide. There has been one major significant change since this came out on JP, which obviously we are going to talk about. Because this is already a stage available on JP, we already know the stages. So we fight Android 17 and 18 in stage 1. We fight Abo and Cardo from that weird Goku and Friends Return TV special as the second stage, and then the third stage is the Trio de Dangers. So two enemies, and then 3 enemies. So Bond of Master and Disciple is not a massive category, although it does have a couple of options for leaders. There's a lot of crossover with other categories, which obviously we will talk about in this video. So as always with my team building guides, I will go over my top picks and honorable mentions. If there's any units you think I missed out or should have talked more about, let me know at the end down below in the comment section. And of course, if you find the guide helpful at all, do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So let us go ahead and jump straight in. So the first big change compared to when this stage dropped on JP was the fact that we now have this STR Goku and Gohan unit available on Global, the current Golden Week dual Dokkan Fest. So whilst his leader skill obviously is Super Saiyans or Goku family for 170 across the board, and then the extra 30% buff to Android/Cell Saga characters, he is of course on Bond of Master and Disciple. And just by looking down the list, obviously we've highlighted a bunch of them in this video already anyway, but there are a ton of units on this category who are in Goku family or Bond of Master and Disciple. Super Saiyans. There is a little bit of crossover with the Android/Cell Saga, so there will be a couple of units that you could run on this team that would be getting the full 200% leader skill, but even if they're not, just the fact that the double Goku Gohan leads and then any of the units you do bring that are getting that full leader skill, they're going to benefit, but then everybody else, whether they're just in Goku family or Super Saiyan, they are still getting a 170 across the board leader skill, which, you know, after 200 is the best, right? Because we're so used to seeing these categories that have 170, 170, 130 or even 150 or something like that, right? So 170 across the board is very, very good. So if you are somebody who has pulled the new Goku and Gohan, I would absolutely recommend using them as a leader. There are a couple of units, of course, that we're going to talk about that you wouldn't be able to use on that team build, because obviously they're not technically a Bond of Master and Disciple leader, but you could make a very strong team out of double Goku Gohan leads. And this unit is very good for Super Battle Road. Obviously he's not a great slot 1 unit, but he can stun on Super. After supering, his defense is very, very good. And of course, once he has super attacked, he does have that dodge chance as well. So very, very good in Super Battle Road. So if you have this guy, I would probably go ahead and use him as the leader, even though the leader skill is slightly more restrictive. So the next best choice after him is potentially the AGL Kid Gohan. He has Bond of Master and Disciple 3 key and 150% across the board. He raises defense on super attack and has a chance to stun. So even if you're using like the STR Goku, right, obviously he's a Goku family unit, he is definitely a character to bring on this team. Having the stun chance is really good. He does have a unit super attack if you have a Piccolo or Krillin on the team, but I mean there are some Piccolos in Bond of Master and Disciple, but none of them are particularly good, let's be honest. So you're probably not going to be getting his unit super attack. But if nothing else, he's going to be very, very good as a support unit. He gives all allies a bunch of defense as well as 3 key. He has the active skill where if you are below 58% HP, you can get a 30% heal. And then he guards all attacks for that turn. And he buffs all allies defense by 20% for 2 turns. So this has no turn restriction. It's just HP 58% or less. So if you're going into the second or third fight on that HP, you can literally use it on turn 1 and get a heal and have a very strong defensive start to that first turn. So even if you don't use him as a leader, I would say this guy is probably a must bring on the team if you have him. He does get extra attack and defense when there's another Heavenly Events character in the same turn, and the STR Goku and Gohan are in that category as well. So this guy just works really, really well on their team. So he's a very good option. Next up, we have the LR, Super Saiyan Future Gohan and Trunks. They are a Bond of Master and Disciple lead. Again, 150% across the board, but they do give 4 key. So if you are going to bring quite a lot of LRs, then obviously these guys can be very good as the leader. They raise defense on both of their supers. They raise attack and defense on their 12 key, and then greatly raise on their 18 key. They change orbs, and you basically want to try and pick up as many AGL orbs as possible. You need to pick up 5 orbs for them to get their full defense, and then those need to be AGL orbs if you want to get the extra attack and then damage reduction. And basically these guys can be incredibly good if you pick up a bunch of AGL orbs. Obviously they get a guaranteed additional super attack if you manage to get 8 orbs. So these guys are very, very good. These are the first example. Obviously these units are not on Goku Family or Super Saiyan, which is really annoying. Like if this card was just Future Gohan, or if the Trunks was a Super Saiyan, then this card would be on the STR Goku and Gohan team, and they're in Android/Cell Saga, so they'd actually get the 200% leader skill as well. So a little bit disappointing, but if you're not running the STR Goku Gohan leads, these guys are a must run if you have them on the team. 58% or less HP starting from turn 3, which is not super hard to get in Super Battle Road. You'll probably be towards the end of the fight, but then you can obviously get the exchange into the Future Gohan, who can then immediately die and revive, give you the nice heal, and then he is a powerhouse once he's exchanged into the solo Future Gohan, so he is very, very good. Next up, we have the Int Future Gohan. A little bit outdated now, but he is another Bond of Master and Disciple leader. 3 key, HP and attack 170 and defense 130. He's probably one of the lesser choices for the lead, just because the defense is only 130, which is obviously not really what you want in more difficult content, but he can still be very good. He's got damage reduction when HP is 58% or less. He supports Bond of Master and Disciple allies for 1 key and 30% attack and defense, which is pretty good. And then if you have a Trunks on the team, you can transform from turn 4 at 58% or more HP. In Super Battle Road, this is probably going to be the last turn, pretty much. So you can transform into Super Saiyan Future Gohan. Then he has damage reduction regardless of his HP. He stops being a support unit, but he gets extra buffs per Bond of Master and Disciple ally on the turn, which obviously in this stage is going to be everyone on the team. And he gets an additional super attack when there is an androids category enemy. So the first fight is against 17 and 18. So he could be very good in that first fight. The only problem is, in his base form, if you're above the 58% HP and he doesn't have this damage reduction, his defense isn't the best. He does greatly raise on super attack, but as I said, he is a little bit outdated at this point. But he can be the last resort lead if you don't have any other leaders for the category. So next up, we have the AGL LR Gohan. He is still a solid unit. Super Battle Road has never really been his best place to be used, because he is an infinite stacker. So obviously in long form events, he builds up his defense to being incredibly high. Whereas in Super Battle Road, like if he eats a super on turn 1, then obviously he's taking a lot of damage. But he can still be very, very good. His leader skill, Kamehameha, there are a lot of Gokus. There's like Master Roshi. There's a couple of units that we're going to talk about that are on the Kamehameha category. So you could run him as a leader if you don't have any of the other options that we've talked about so far. Otherwise, I don't know if I would necessarily bring him. He is still solid in Super Battle Road. Not so much for no item runs because of how long it takes him to build up his defense. But since a lot of people don't care about that, if you've got a defensive item active, especially after supering, his defense is still pretty good. And of course, he's on the 200% leader skill, so he can be very, very good on this team. Next up, we have the AGL Prime Battle Trunks. I did a 200% showcase for him recently. Against multiple enemies, obviously he gets 8 extra key and a bunch of extra attack and defense. So he's very, very good in Super Battle Road. If you can get him to land the finishing blow on one of the enemies, he then gets that permanent 40% attack and defense buff. So ideally, you want to try and weaken the enemies with the other units, and then when this guy comes onto rotation, try and get him to finish one of them off, and then he will be pretty strong. He's a good free-to-play option. There's definitely picks for the team that would be better than him, but as a free-to-play option, he's definitely going to be very useful for a lot of people, so he is a good pick as well. Next up, we have the Tech Super Saiyan 2 Aglr Gohan. I feel like this unit's super underrated. Nobody talks about this unit anymore. I liked this unit as soon as he came out. I'm a big fan of the BoJack movie. Shame he doesn't have a 200% leader skill team, because obviously he doesn't have Kamehameha, so he doesn't have one even on JP. But he is a very solid unit. Even without getting his full potential with a movie hero's Goku, he's still really, really good. I use him on the Super Saiyan 2 team still quite a bit. Very strong unit. Gets extra key per orb, which is a great mechanic for LRs, so it's very easy to get his 18 key super. He has built-in additionals. But the best thing about this particular stage is there is a movie hero's Goku that you could bring, who can be pretty good to run with him, which is this physical Super Saiyan Blue Goku from Resurrection of F. He's an orb changer, a nuker, infinite stacker. He can be really good for healing, because he can change a whole selection of the field into physical orbs and then pick them all up to give you a nice amount of HP. In Super Battle Road, though, again, units like this that build up over time, he's obviously not going to be anywhere near as good right at the start, but he can still be very, very good. Post-super attack, as long as you've picked up enough orbs, his defense is going to be decent. And then again, like I say, you can use him to optimize the Tech Aglr Gohan, so that could work quite well using those two together. So next up we have LR Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta. He gets memed on quite a lot, but obviously he can still be a solid unit. His biggest problem in difficult content like this is the fact that his damage reduction builds up with each hit that he takes. And so obviously going into a fresh phase like the second or third fight, and there's a bunch of attacks in slot 1, if you don't have an item active, those first couple of attacks are potentially going to do a lot of damage to him. And because he builds up the damage reduction with each attack that he takes, if the first attack of the turn that you take is a super attack, then obviously he's going to take a ton of damage compared to if he took a bunch of normal attacks first and then took a super attack. So he can be good on the team, especially depending on the kind of build. There's a couple of units that you can bring to make like a Reps of Universe 7 team. So obviously he would fit into that if you needed to fully fill out that team. But he can still be pretty good. His active skill is an AoE, but obviously by the 4th turn, chances are there's not going to be multiple enemies left, because you want to get rid of individual enemies as quickly as possible, rather than just weakening everyone, because the more enemies alive, the more chance you're going to get tagged with a super. So he can be good, but he's definitely not a top pick, unfortunately. And then we have Master Roshi, who I just mentioned. Technically, you can run his lead as well, Turtle School. There are a bunch of Gokus on this category. I don't know how good that team would actually look, but yeah, if you're running the Reps team, he's really good. Used him recently on the Reps of Universe 7 no item run. Obviously, he can stun on his 12 key, seal on his 18 key. He has the Revival, so very, very good for Super Battle Road, having that Revival. He has the easiest condition for his Revival, so that can be very, very useful in Super Battle Road. So next up we have this LR Gohan, the original Super Battle Road LR. With his Easy A, as long as you have a Goku on the turn with him, he's really, really good. He can tank really, really well. He can stun on his 12 key. So sometimes in certain situations you might want to go for his 12 key on purpose in order to get a stun chance. But yeah, he can be very solid. It's not a huge amount really to say about him. You just kind of have to run him with a Goku, and then he is a solid defensive unit. So I think he can be a good option for the team. I don't really want to call him a free-to-play option, because obviously you have to beat every stage of the ESBR, the mono normal Super Battle Road stages to actually get him. And then you've got to beat all of the mono ESBR stages to actually get all of his medals, which for a lot of people nowadays, that's obviously not that difficult. But if you are a newer player, you're obviously not going to have this guy. So then we have the physical LR Trunks. Recently showcased him on the 200% team as well. So he is on that lead with the STR, Goku and Gohan. He raises defense on super, has the 50% chance to crit. So he's not a slot 1 unit, but he can pretty good. Maybe as even like a 3rd slot floating unit just to dish out a bunch of extra damage. His defense post super attack is very, very good. Although he's not going to be tanking supers with no items or anything like that. but he definitely is a solid unit. Sadly, there is no Wicked Bloodline enemy, so you don't get the 5 key and guaranteed crit, but he does get extra attack when facing extreme class enemies, which all of the enemies are in this stage, so he can be very good as well. Next up, we have the AGL Dokkan Fest Trunks. Super Battle Road is an interesting one for him. He's not a great slot 1 unit, but he can get a bunch of additional attacks. If you've built him to be mostly crit, then obviously all of those additionals can be crits. He can do a lot of damage. He can transform on basically his 3rd turn, which for Super Battle Road, if you have him on turn 1, is turn 5. Which, at that point, if you're still in the fight, there's probably only 1 enemy left. When he transforms, the enemy that you're targeting gets stunned and sealed, which is pretty awesome. But then you're obviously then just going to kill him and then the fight is over. So he's not at his full like efficiency, but the base form version pretty much is better in general anyway. So he can be very good for dishing out a bunch of damage. I would probably use him as like a 3rd slot floating unit on the team as well. So then we have the AGL Margarita, the angel from Universe 11. So she's an interesting pick for this because she has a medium chance to dodge. She lowers attack and seals on Super, which is really good for Super Battle Road. And then she has Bond of Master and Disciple as one of her support buffs. So she gives attack and defense 20%. But she gives this to Bond of Master and Disciple, Siblings Bond, and Realm of Gods. So if there's any characters that have multiples of these, they obviously get all of the buffs. So there are some, like Gokus, for example, like we talked about the Super Saiyan Blue Goku that would be on Realm of Gods as well, would get some extra buffs. There's no other Universe 11 unit, so she's definitely not like a top tier choice, but she is an honourable mention. Then we have Super Saiyan 3 Trunks from the Hero Celebration with his Easy A. He's a very, very good defensive unit as long as his guard does activate. He can actually build up to doing some pretty decent damage as well. The only downside to him, of course, is if the guard doesn't activate and you get hit with a super attack, then he can potentially take a lot of damage. There's also not a lot of other Super Saiyan 3s on the team, so the fact that he has Over and a Flash can hurt him a little bit. He does have Shattering the Limit, which can help with some of the other options, but obviously he's a bit of an odd one out being a Super Saiyan 3, but he can still be very good. Then we have the AGL Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta, who got his Easy A fairly recently. At this point, let's be fair, he's probably better than the LR. Not a great slot 1 unit, but again, he's a unit that could easily fit on this team and just be like a 3rd slot floating unit who just comes in that 3rd slot and does a ton of damage, gets all of his additionals, and then his defense is very, very high after he's gotten his attacks. So very solid choice for the team as well, and obviously fits onto that Reps of Universe 7 build. Then we have Kabe. Obviously, in Kabe, the big meme. Shout out to Minato. Obviously, now that SSBE, the AGL one, has his Easy A and is much, much better, you could use the 2 of these guys together. But in Kabe, it's kind of just a joke, honourable mention, really. He's not the best. He's not as terrible as everybody makes out, but he is not great for the banner units that we've been seeing coming out recently. He does get to raise his defense as long as you're getting the unit super attack. He is providing support. Obviously, he helps out the Vegeta quite significantly. But, you know, there's much better ways to build the team, I think, than bringing a Vegeta and then bringing this guy as well. Especially because his support is only for Universe Survival Saga. So, unless you are building, like, the kind of Reps of Universe 7 build, that can then also have him on the leader skill, right? Because obviously he's not on Reps of Universe 7, so you need a unit that actually has, like, Universe Survival Saga. So he probably doesn't fit in all that well, but he could be useful if you are using the Blue Evolution Vegetas. Then we have Vados, similar to the Margarita. She has the chance to dodge. She lowers attack and seals. She gives the buffs to Realm of God, Siblings Bond, Bond of Master and Disciple. There's no other real Universe 6 units, but very, very similar to Margarita. So for the same reasons, she can be pretty good. Then we have this STR Trunks. I talk about him quite a lot. He's like a must-run support unit when you have a bunch of Hybrid Saiyans. So if you're running the team with like the LR Future Gohan and Trunks, AGL Kid Gohan, Dokkan Fest Trunks, like this guy just fits perfectly on that team. Gives them a bunch of support. His defense is actually really good after supering. He also does have a chance to stun, which is really good. If you have a Gohan Youth in the same turn, it's a high chance to stun instead of medium. And this does actually proc from the STR Goku and Gohan, the new unit. And he is on their leader skill because he is a Super Saiyan. So he's definitely worth bringing on the team, even though he obviously doesn't support that unit because that unit is not a Hybrid Saiyan. We've covered a lot of very good Hybrid Saiyans for this team. So then we have Super Saiyan Blue Kaio-Ken Goku, another kind of meme unit, but he has a Reps of Universe 7 or Universe Survival Saga lead. So as we mentioned with the Int Kabe, this is a team build that you could run him on. The only reason I mention him is because as much as everybody likes to meme on him, there is the legit strategy of just losing some health and then nuking through the fights with the Spirit Bomb because it doesn't have a turn restriction. So as long as you're on low enough HP, you can just go into the second and third fight and then just do the Spirit Bomb and have your whole rotation do a ton of damage on the first turn. You just have to keep him away from attacks or use defensive items and then he will be fine. So that is a legitimate strategy. I don't really like using him, but that is a way that you can get it done. So then we have the STR Super Trunks. The physical Super Trunks is very similar. I only brought up the page for the STR one. Either of them would be solid choices. They're on the 200% leader skill for STR, Goku, and Gohan. So these guys can be pretty good. They're not like super impressive, but they're just solid units that you can use to fill that final spot on the team. So they definitely deserve an honorable mention. And then last but not least, we have physical Future Gohan. Obviously, he needs to have a Future Saga Trunks in the same turn for him to have his full potential. But he is really, really good. You can obviously run him alongside this Trunks, who's giving him 40% support, and then these guys, he will be absolutely insane. So he is definitely a great unit to bring. He's on the 200% leader skill for STR, Goku, and Gohan. So for Global, that team is just going to absolutely demolish this stage if you can run this leader skill. So there you go. That is my top picks and honorable mentions for Bond of Master and Disciple. There's a couple of units we didn't mention, like Whis, who obviously just like the Vados and Margarita can be very good. Some of the other LRs, like in LR Gohan, he can still be pretty good after his easy. I always forget he has his easy A because it's so unimpressive. But let me know down below if there's any other units that you think that I should have talked about, and let me know what your team build is going to look like for the Bond of Master and Disciple stage. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.